So the auction results today, but with a little twist. I've been doing these videos for about 2 years now where I start talking about the latest results at the Ritchie Bros auctions. Today, we're gonna be taking the Freightliners, we're gonna be taking the Kenworths, and we're gonna be taking the Peterbilts. But I'm gonna do a comparison to my video this time last year. So we can see if the trucks have gone up in value, down in value. I mean, I've been reporting about our industry going down and down literally for the last 18 months, but I actually got a comment about this, and that's what inspired me to do this video, is to compare the results from this time around to this time last year. So the first up, we have our 2020. So last year I did a video and I took the 2020s and I compared probably about 10 Cascadias. So let's analyze it together. 485,000 miles was the first truck, and that sold for 52,000. Then we had one at 610,000 miles. That one sold for 46,500. Then we had one at 598,000 miles. That one sold for 44,000. So then we had one with 662,000 miles. It sold for 34,000. Then there was one with 729,000 miles. It sold for 29,000. Then we had another one with 731,000 miles. It sold for 26,000. And we had one with 754,000 miles, and that sold for 23,000. So now I did a search over here with all the 2021s. So last year we did 2020. So it's 1 year fast forward. I want the exact same 4-year-old models or 3-year models, only the 2021s, and let's have a look. So I'll line them up. Okay, so our first one here, we have 485,000 miles that sold last time. That sold for 52,000. The comparable this time around is 499,000, which is only 10,000 miles off. That one sold for $42,500. Okay, here is the exact comparison. We'll line them up. The second truck that we had was 598,000 miles. That sold back then for 44,000, and that is equivalent to our 608,000 miles. This time around it sold for 33,000. Next truck we have is in the 600s. One of them that was 610, the other one was 611. Last time it sold for 46,500 and 46,000. Now when I mean last time, I mean last year. This time around, we can take the 608, it sold for $33,000, which means about $13,000 decline from last year to this year. So prices definitely did go down. Let's go for the 662,000 miles. 662,000 miles last time sold for 34,000. We have 695,000 sold for 27,500. Okay, so last year, this year. Now the trucks with the 700,000 miles. Last year we had 3 of them. One of them with 729,000 miles. It sold for 29,000. This time we see that for 726,000 miles, sold for 27,000. Okay, so pretty much the same. And then 731,000 and 754,000 is equivalent to this truck over here, which sold for $26,000. So my conclusion with the Freightliners, when I line them all up, I see that the ones with the lower mileages have significantly dropped, but the ones with 750 or 760 or over 700,000 miles, it really can't drop anymore, because buying a truck for $26,000 or $27,000 or $29,000 is really irrelevant, whether it's $26,000 or $29,000. So the trucks that have dropped the most are the ones with the lower mileages, the 485,000 miles, the 610,000 miles, the 500,000 miles. Those dropped by about $10,000 to $12,000 per truck. Okay, now if you're taking $50,000 versus $40,000, well, that's a 20% drop from last year to this year. Now we can get into our Peterbilts. Last year's Peterbilts that were flat nose trucks, there were only 2 last year. One of them had 422,000 miles and the other one had 540,000 miles. One sold for $85,000 and another one sold for $80,000. Let's look at these babies over here. Okay, perfect. We have a perfect comparison. 461,000 miles, and that one sold for $82,500. And we have one with 540,000 miles. There are no more flat nose trucks. So this is really the only one that we have to compare to. And we have one over here with 454 that sold for $87,500. All right, so conclusion on the flat nose trucks, okay, these Peterbilt, is that there is no movement in their price, which means that they're probably the safest buys when it comes to fluctuation. So there is no fluctuation from last year to this year, meaning that there's still a high demand for these trucks, for these flat nose trucks. No idea why. I mean, I'm sure I'll get a lot of backlash on that. Okay, the 579 from last year, okay, this one had 443,000 miles. It sold for 67,500. Now let's look for the exact same truck. Okay, these are all good comparison. Okay, so all three of these are good comparisons. So we have a 2021 with 332,000 miles. 332,000 miles. That one sold for 32,500. You have the one in Tennessee that sold with 339,000 miles. That one is $40,000. And you have one with 412,000 miles that sold for $30,000. Whew, damn, they dropped a lot in price. And then we have the 292,000 miles, which is almost like a brand new truck, sold for 47,000. Okay, we have 4 trucks, 579s that sold. Okay, so these are the 2021 Peterbilt 579. Last year it sold for $67,500, and you can see that it dropped significantly in price because right now they're selling between $30,000 to $40,000. So I say this particular truck dropped probably around 40% in value on these Peterbilts. Let's do the exact same comparison with the Kenworths. So let's bring up what we had last year. 314,000 miles, 449,000 miles. Okay, those 2 trucks sold for 55,000 and 55,000. Then you had one with 500,000 miles, sold for $39,000. Then you had another one with 609,000 miles, sold for $35,000. So let's do the exact same comparison. We'll take our Kenworths now. Let's have a look. Morris, Illinois, holy Kenworth T680s. Whoa, okay, these dropped in price significantly. So we have 314,000 miles. This one has 356. So we have 2 of them that have 356, which is comparable to the 314. 356,000 miles, sold for $37,000 before it sold for $55,000. Okay, then we have another one with 356, sold for $31,000. 449. Let's look if we can find a 400. Oh, these are all with very low mileage. Okay, so 580 is equivalent to our 609. This one sold for $28,000. This one has 580,000 miles. Now we're looking for one at 500. Man, these all have very, very low mileages. I don't know why. So you have one with 337,000 miles that sold for 34. So 449,000 miles, we're going to compare that one with 400,000 miles, 401,000 miles to be exact. That one sold for $35,000. So 401 sold for $35,000. Last year, this time, 449,000 miles sold for $55,000. Whew. All right, so that is our comparison. You can see here the ones that are, I mean, all these Kenworth T680s with very, very low mileage are selling for between $30,000 to $40,000. Okay, so you wanted a comparison, I gave you a comparison. Now here is the conclusion. The conclusion is the trucks that drop the most in value, hands down, is the Kenworth's T680s. The ones that retained the most value, that has 0 fluctuations, I would say is the Peterbilts, the flat nose trucks. Those definitely had no movement in them. And then the Freightliner Cascadias, I would say in conclusion that it had a 20% drop from last year to this year. Now, what does this mean moving forward? Well, nobody knows. We can just continue monitoring the results and giving you guys the information out there. So make sure you're part of this channel. Now, don't forget, if you need the financing, use the link below to get financing for any one of your trucks. I hate to see guys overpaying on their financing needs. So hopefully you learned something from this video. I'm Ronan. Let me know what you think about the comparisons and if you would like for me to move forward. Now, the one truck or the 2 trucks that I did not do in this video is the Volvos and the Internationals. If you guys want me to do the Volvos and International, the comparison, put the comments down below and I'll start working on that video. I'm Ronan and I'll catch you in my next video.